U.S. President Donald Trump has escalated his rhetoric over Greenland, declaring that Denmark has failed to address a supposed Russian threat to the Arctic territory and vowing decisive action. In a forceful post on his Truth Social platform, Trump claimed NATO had warned Denmark for 2 decades to counter Russian influence in Greenland and asserted, "Now it is time, and it will be done." The remarks come amid Trump's renewed insistence that U.S. ownership of Greenland is non-negotiable. Denmark and Greenland's leadership have repeatedly rejected the idea, stressing that the island and autonomous territory within the Danish kingdom is not for sale and does not seek to become part of the United States. Greenland and the security argument. Trump has framed Greenland primarily through a security lens, arguing that growing Russian and Chinese activity in the Arctic makes the island strategically indispensable to U.S. interests. From missile defense and early warning systems to Arctic sea lanes and rare earth resources, Greenland occupies a pivotal position in great power competition. European officials counter that Greenland is already protected under NATO's collective defense framework, making U.S. ownership unnecessary. For Denmark, Trump's argument cuts uncomfortably close to sovereignty, implying not just strategic concern, but an accusation of long-term failure as an ally. From rhetoric to economic pressure. What makes this episode unusually destabilizing is Trump's willingness to fuse security demands with economic coercion. Over the weekend, he vowed to impose escalating tariffs on European allies until the United States is allowed to buy Greenland. This effectively transforms a strategic dispute into a trade confrontation, dragging markets, alliances, and economic relations into what was previously a diplomatic standoff. By linking tariffs to territorial acquisition, Trump is signaling a readiness to use America's economic weight as leverage over allied governments, a move that many European leaders view as crossing a red line. Implications for NATO and Europe. Trump's comments strike at the heart of NATO unity. Accusing Denmark of neglecting alliance obligations while threatening punitive measures undermines the logic of collective security, where trust and shared responsibility are central. It also raises questions about whether alliance commitments can be weaponized to justify unilateral demands. For Europe, the Greenland dispute has become emblematic of a broader concern that U.S. security guarantees may increasingly come with transactional conditions. This perception is already fueling debates within the EU about strategic autonomy and reducing dependence on Washington. Personal analysis. Trump's insistence that it will be done signals more than bluster. It reflects a worldview in which sovereignty, alliances, and trade are negotiable tools rather than fixed principles. Framing Greenland as a security necessity allows Washington to recast a territorial demand as strategic inevitability, even when the territory in question explicitly rejects that logic. The danger lies in precedent. If economic pressure becomes an accepted means of extracting territorial or strategic concessions from allies, the foundations of the post-war alliance system weaken. Greenland itself may remain out of U.S. reach, but the damage to transatlantic trust could be lasting. Ultimately, this dispute is less about Russian threats in the Arctic than about how power is exercised in a multipolar world. By conflating security concerns with ownership and tariffs, Trump risks turning alliance management into coercion, an approach that may achieve headlines, but at the cost of long-term stability.